This video is all about release. It's going to increase your distance without you even knowing it. Very rarely have I seen someone over-release it. This is where a lot of the snap and a lot of the squaring goes on. And if I'm rotating my hands, I'm rotating that club head early as you can. We're allowing gravity, nice and soft everyone, like you haven't got a joint in your wrist at all. Nice and light. Oh yes, and more importantly, get some consistency in your overall game. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Warren Bennett. We've got Trev mooching around the garden somewhere, probably causing some mischief somewhere. I don't know, he's pretty chilled behind the net. So this video is all about release. Well, I'm going to show you a common fault that many golfers have in their release. I'll show you the pitfalls, but more importantly, I'm going to show you a way that you can get your hands and club, more importantly, back to the ball square. This is going to really improve your consistency, get some kind of compression into the ball, and more importantly, get some consistency in your overall game. So I'm going to show you a little drill that you can start off small and work your way up to full swings. So I'm going to get the front camera set up, kind of look after Trev for 2 minutes, and then we'll get going. Okay everyone, so thanks very much for joining me for another video. Really appreciate all your support, and I hope you're getting out there and playing some golf. I know in the UK, weather's been quite dry over the last week, so I hope you're managing to take advantage of that, wherever you are. So, release. Now I'm not going to get into too much detail about the reasons why people have the wrong release. So you're going to see from the front view there, the reason why people have this kind of release that's too cupped is the majority of that is built into the downswing. With this club coming out, you're going to have to sit back and cut across it. And you can't release it from, like I've said in previous videos, you can't release it from an out to in path, otherwise you'll smother it hitting left. So a lot of people have this look, as you can see from the front view, if I lift my sleeve up, have this cupping view. Now I'm not going to go into, like I said, too much detail about why. With any change, it's going to feel a little bit new and probably a little bit strange, but we're going to start off quite small, and first of all we're going to start off without a ball. So both camera views. So I'd like you to take your stance, kind of narrow in a little bit. That's going to keep everything a little bit more central, because the wider you are, you're allowed to kind of move around with your head and you won't fall over. If I did the same with a narrow stance, I'm going to feel it and start toppling over. I'd like you to do it with your kind of your left hand or your lead hand arm only. So right hand can kind of be in your pocket or just beside you. So what I'd like you to do is make little practice swings, and you can see on the backswing, I'm going to kind of point the club up in the air. There's going to be a little bit of angle here. I'm not going to be totally vertical, and more importantly, I'm definitely not going to be rolling the club inside. Now I'm going to only do little half swings, and you're going to see the exaggerated rolling of my left wrist here. So there's going to be no cupping whatsoever. So the backswing, you can see there's a little bit of angle there, kind of this Goldilocks zone we like to call it in the backswing, kind of through my right shoulder. But we're not really making a full backswing. We're keeping it nice and short, but more importantly, this is the motion I really want you to focus on. We're really kind of, if you've got a glove, you really want to feel this logo pointing down. Like I said with the original bad one, people sit back and they flip. You can see the logo is going to be pointing completely up. What you're doing is that at this kind of halfway through position, you want your palm to be facing you. It's really exaggerated. We're going to move it on a little bit, and it won't happen when you kind of get a ball there, but I really want you to roll it and feel the back of your hand as completely neutral. So if I was swinging towards that front camera there, you can see my follow through there, the back of my left hand, if I was wearing a watch, is going towards the target. The other way, you can see it's kind of flipping and looking up there. So really kind of exaggerated and exaggerating the roll of this left hand. That's way too exaggerated. There's a lot of exaggerations in one sentence there. But what you want to try and do, you want to really roll it, and I'm feeling like I'm rolling it as early as I can. If I was hitting a ball like that, the ball would probably hook a little bit. So you're really exaggerating the roll, and you're keeping this as firm as possible. Allow the club to go heavy. You're not controlling it, but all you're doing is keeping the structure of this left wrist the same all the way through. So it will feel a little bit easier when you put two hands on it. So what I recommend, if I can try and find a tee, is put a little tee in the ground. Okay, so now both hands, so backswing, remember that same angle as we did before. Now this left hand and this left wrist is going to swing down if I do it slow motion, and it's going to start rolling as early as you can. I want you to exaggerate it. I want you to feel like the toe of the club is coming into the ball first. A lot of people have problems with the heel of the club going into early, so I want you to feel like the toe of the club is rolling into the ball first. So the exaggeration on the way through, I want you to stop. Right arm's going to be kind of parallel to the ground, and you're going to really feel this palm facing you, or the glove logo pointing away from you. That is exaggerated. You won't do that when the speed gets layered in. So nice and loose, nice and light, and let's clip that tee away. Nice and loose and nice and light, and that's what I want you to do. You can do it with one hand if you want, or both hands. So one hand will look like this. Just gives you kind of an awareness to stay nice and still. Pointing the club kind of up in the air, but there's a little bit of angle. And from here you can do little slow motion swings if you like. And you're really exaggerating this roll. You can see there with my left wrist how much I can see of my fingers when I look down. Really important to check that. That's exaggerated, especially if you've got the fault the other way. As soon as you layer speed, you won't be able to do it that much. And you're practicing oh dear, I can't say it. You're practicing exaggeration. Nice and still, roll. Beautiful. Your palms looking at you and the back of the hands facing towards the target. As early as you can. You can see there, probably, you can see if I stop a bit shorter how shut this face is. You can see it's looking down to the ground. That would be kind of neutral, obviously open if I cup it. So you're kind of reversing your bad fault there. Okay, so that's just practice swings. That's obviously not real life. Let's move on to a golf ball. First of all, nice and slow, nice and narrow with the stance. This is not a distance exercise. Same thing, you can stop at the top if you like. Get ready for it, nice and light, roll. I'm always here to kind of change the needle and show you a little bit too much. Okay, Trev's just running about, got to be careful. Okay, nice and narrow with the stance. Just half a backswing, roll. Like I've said in previous videos, very rarely have I seen someone over-release it correctly. You can over-release it if you're outside and smothering it, but very rarely I've seen someone kind of come from the neutral path and rolling it too much. It's very hard to do that, especially when you ramp up the speed. This is why we slow down a little bit, to give yourself some chance to over-exaggerate it. Once you start layering a little bit quicker speeds, difficult to do that. Just a little kind of tip from the top of the backswing, which is only a half backswing for us at the moment, we're allowing gravity, nice and soft everyone. There's no change of speed. So keep it nice and smooth. That's why we have a nice smooth swing, because it allows this club to drop. There's your changing of the path if you're a bit too outside in. Nice and light. You can see there's no hit there. Really closed club face at the finish. You can see how much it's pointing down. Unfortunately I haven't got the flight scope, but I can guarantee that's going to be drawing that little shot here. Back, through. Keep the back of the left wrist as firm as possible, like you haven't got a joint in your wrist at all. If I was looking towards the front camera there and I was doing it wrong, you can see there's a bit of that big cup there. You don't want that at all. You really want the opposite. You really want to keep this structure of the back of the left hand and the wrist all as one. Nice and relaxed. It's not a distance exercise. Oh yes. Okay, so now we're going to fast track that. I don't expect you to do that. I'd stay that and just carry on doing little half swings for as long as you like. But just obviously for the purpose of the video, we're going to take that on to the next level. Okay, so what I mean by taking it to the next level in terms of speed, not length of swing, because if you change your speed, you're probably going to get a little bit longer in your swing anyway. Backswing can go a little bit longer if you like, but we're going to keep the kind of the softness in the downswing, and then we're just going to ramp up the speed of the release at the last minute. Nice and light. Keep that back of the left hand, check it, take the right hand off. Yep, I can see more of my fingers. If I did it wrong, I can't see any of the end of my fingers there. So that's your little kind of barometer. You want to see the kind of your nails of your fingers. Let's do it again. And just clipping away. You can see I haven't looked up yet. Check it. Yep, I can see my nails if I take my hand away. Beautiful. You release with the back of this left hand as strong as possible. There is no give at all. But remember, a lot of that happens because, like I said in the intro, from out to in. So let's get this club on this kind of backswing, keeping it nice and neutral through my right shoulder-ish area. Allow it to drop. So you can see it's now going to come slightly from the inside, if not on plane, and we're going to roll it as much as you can. Nice and light. You can kick your right knee in, but remember, everything's staying nice and central here. No movement of the body yet. And that's my little saying, is less and, I can't speak. And that's my little saying, less is more. You're doing a lot of hands and arms motion, and this is this kind of impact zone. I call it the internals. It's kind of hip height to hip height, pocket height to pocket height, either side of the ball, and you're working on a lot of arm structure. Arm structure meaning release. This is when this club goes from pointing up to pointing up, but in the middle it's got to point down. And to do that, you've got to have a correct release. You don't want to release that the club's taking over. With this rolling of this wrist, what it's actually doing at impact is bringing your hands forward. It's getting your hands in front of the ball at impact. This rolling, so I'm rolling this left hand down to the ground as quick as possible. What that is actually doing, that's squaring the club up, and it's keeping my hands ahead of the club as well. What you want to do, especially if you're a slicer of the ball and if you haven't got the distance you're looking for, and you feel like you're putting in a little bit too much effort, this internal little practice swing is absolutely fantastic. And all my brain in here is in the back of my left hand. Allow it. If I go from the logo of my invisible glove pointing at that front camera to pointing down, that's a lot happening in such a short space of time. The club head's going to be going very quickly here. Really rotating my hands. And if I'm rotating my hands, I'm rotating that club head. And that's going to produce an anti-slice shot. So it's going to increase your distance without you even knowing it. And you won't feel it, which is the great thing. As soon as you lay your normal swing into that, you won't feel it, that's for certain. Okay, so increase speed. You can see there I've gone a little bit further. You can still see my fingers, beautiful. So just for the purpose of this video, what we're going to do, we're just going to increase the length of our swing now a little bit and increase the swing a little bit. So we're going to kind of get our feet a little bit wider, a little bit further back. Doesn't have to be a full swing yet. Allow my hands to drop this first third, and then the release and the snap happens. So nice and light, snap. You can see there, because of that extra kind of speed, I've had to kind of make an increased length of follow through, but it happens just as a momentum. The club head, because of I'm rotating, the club head is getting pulled around me, so I can't stop short if I wanted to. Nice and light, rotate. Oh yes, you can't have education and efficiency of your arms if you haven't got a good release. So remember, you're not really doing this slow. You don't go around the golf course doing little half swings and stopping short, do you? You've got to let it go eventually. Okay, so let's start building it up then. Yep, that felt different to my normal swing. Obviously I don't have a fault. Like I've always said, I don't have an over-the-top fault, so it's always going to be easier for me to introduce a bit more snap and release down here. If you've got an over-the-top fault, little things like narrowing your stance in, keep over the top of the ball in terms of you're not moving around. You don't have to move around, you don't have to move your body, you don't have to make a backswing in terms of full backswing. You can create a lot of speed down there just by giving it some kind of release and some roll of this left hand. Exaggerate, do it with one hand. Do it without a club. So you're really rolling it flat and square here. Okay, so practice swing. Okay, now we're going to let it go. That's what I'd like you to do. Nice and light. So remember, a lot of problems happen from the breakdown of this left hand. Obviously lead hand, so obviously with left-handers it's going to be the opposite to this, but a lot of problems happen because of the breakdown of this left hand and the club overtaking the hands here. So there's the casting motion. Obviously it comes from other factors as well, kind of majority of it, but working on the one thing that solves for this, keeping the left hand structure nice and solid and not letting this club kind of fish out and creating this cup, that can really solve path problem as well. So you're keeping the structure exactly the same from here. So you can see there the angle, and you're keeping it the same. If I let my left hand cup there, you can see what's going to happen with the club. It's exaggerated, but you can see it's going to kind of, if I let the structure fall down and there's some cupping of my left hand, you can see where the club goes. So keeping that wrist as flat as you can, as firm as you can, and rolling it, you can see that it's going to turn that 8 iron into a 7 iron. And what's more important, it's coming into the ball square, and it's going to deliver that club square back to the ball. And especially if you're a slicer of the ball, go to the range with an objective. Go saying, right, okay, it might not be perfect, and I might not be able to start it perfectly up the right and draw it all of a sudden, but what you want to do is not hit the ball excessively left to right if you're a right-hander. And the consequences of that, the effect of that, is you might get a little bit more extra power without you feeling it. Remember my little statement of less is more? Just let the helicopter go past. Oh, that's close. So where was I? What was I saying? Oh yeah, the effect of your hands rolling, going from square, back of the left hand, nice and square, all the way down to rolling. The effect of that is there's going to be much more speed down there. And the hard thing about golf, I suppose, and doing it correctly is you won't feel that speed, because you're not going to be moving very far during this hitting zone, during the pockets to pockets either side of the ball. And then obviously from a swing, you start moving as well. So this little area before the ball and after the ball, this is where a lot of the snap and a lot of the squaring goes on. But you can only do that with one area of the body, especially with a lot of club golfers. Obviously the pros are doing that with a lot of rotation because they have a lot of this built in already. But you can see, I'll try and put some images up on the screen. You can see a lot of the pro golfers have this really strong left hand at impact and through impact. There's no breakdown whatsoever. So I'll try and find some images. Not everyone, obviously, but a majority of these golfers have a very strong left hand on the way through. There's no breakdown at all. Obviously a lot of that comes from before the ball, but a majority of it comes from good education of the hands into the ball. And this is what this video is all about. Okay everyone, so any questions? I'd love to hear from you, because the release is a strange one, isn't it? It's a hard one. If I'm not standing in front of someone, or if I was standing in front of someone, I can kind of guide them. And everyone's different. Everyone's got different movements into the ball and different sequences. So, but generally, if you can kind of just stay nice and central and nice and simple and work on this arm and hand structure, you'll be amazed how much speed you can generate, and more importantly, getting that club back to square, more importantly. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's joined the Academy. It gives me the chance to stand on this mat. I've just arrived 3 hours away from home, set the cameras up pretty quickly, and off I'm running. So it gives me the chance to do that. So your support is absolutely crucial in for me to kind of keep the wheels turning and get me on the mat and making these videos. So any information about it, I'm not going to talk about it, but any information is all down in the description below. So thank you in advance, and obviously for the people who have joined, thank you so much. It's so appreciated. Okay everyone, so from a gloomy-ish UK, very still though, there hasn't been any wind for a long time, which is great. We bid you farewell. Have a great golfing week. I'd love to hear from you where you're playing. Northern Hemisphere, we're coming into the winter, so it's not going to be as easy. The Southern Hemisphere, obviously you're going to come into your summer now, so a golfing season ahead. Okay everyone, so I wish you well. Stay healthy on and off the golf course, and we'll see you next time. Thanks everyone. So from myself and Trev, we'll see you then. Cheerio.